What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Pats podcast. I'm Phil Perry. We have a big week coming up. It is Combine Week. It is almost Combine Week. That is, we are recording this on Friday afternoon. I will be leaving for Indianapolis on Monday night. I will be there through Friday for all the Combine festivities. Downtown Indianapolis. I actually really like making this trip. I like Indy as a city, and I like what the city has to offer on Combine Week when it comes to opportunities for us to learn more about the draft, learn more about the prospects involved, learn more about the Patriots' intentions specifically. That's what we're after when they're down there. And obviously, even they might not know exactly which way they'll be going at the end of April, but you can, in some instances, get a feeling for how teams are feeling, Patriots included, about certain prospects. It was at the Combine in 2020 when I was told, watch out for this safety from Lenore Ryan. My goodness, his stock is rising because he was fresh off the Senior Bowl where he had performed well. Obviously, we're talking about Kyle Duggar. He's the only safety in the NFL from Lenore Ryan, Division II guy down in North Carolina. Those are the kinds of things you hear about. That's the kind of buzz that you get when you're in Indianapolis this time of year. So I'm really excited. You should be really excited too, as Patriots followers and Patriots fans, because this is a massive week for your team. Not only because of what it means in terms of the draft, how do these players perform, not even necessarily in some of the events, but in their interviews. How do they handle the medicals, or how do the medicals come out about these different prospects, the ones that have obvious questions, guys like Michael Penix. We had Doc Flynn on months ago now. But she was able to talk to us, Doc Jess Flynn, talk to us about, what teams will be wondering when it comes to Michael Penix and his history of knee issues specifically, and how those may impact his projections for certain clubs. Those are the kinds of things that are most important in Indianapolis, even above and beyond the athletic testing. It's nice to have the athletic testing. It gives us a fuller picture on these guys and what they might be able to do at the next level. It checks a box for a lot of them. If you fail as a tester, maybe that takes you off some teams' draft boards, or it drops you down the list. Generally speaking, you're not coming from out of nowhere testing like a freak and working your way into the top 2 rounds. That's not usually how it goes. You have to have a little bit of everything, and the testing is part of it. So the draft is one piece of the Combine, but it ain't everything. And I think this is what some people may overlook when it comes to this week. But the Combine can be where you chart your course in free agency. And that's why, to me, this is a massive week for the new Patriots regime, the Gerard Mayo, Elliott Wolf, New England Patriots. Not only are they going to be leading these interviews with these prospects and getting to know these guys better, specifically the quarterbacks is my guess, and getting a feel for how they handle those conversations, maybe even how they handle adverse situations in a meeting room. When you ask a prospect about why he threw an interception, when he threw an interception, how does he handle that? What kind of explanation does he have? Because I've heard about quarterback interviews that get a little sideways sometimes. If a player is prideful, if a player is not accustomed to being spoken to in a certain way and being asked hard questions about why he didn't perform well. And so those things are good, but it's the free agency part of it that I'm going to be really interested in when we get to Indy, because we know tampering happens. It certainly happens in Indy. It ain't legal technically, but you can't prevent these people that are in the league, whether they're agents, front office people talking to other front office people about their plans with certain players. You can't prevent it in Indy. And so how does this rookie regime, I put rookie in quotation marks, Gerard Mayo's been at the Combine before. Elliott Wolf's been at the Combine before. They've been a part of these discussions in the past when you talk about Elliott Wolf or Matt Groh or Pat Stewart or Steve Cargile, or, name your Patriots front office person who has been with the team for the last several years. This has always been a big week for these guys. But now they're the ones in charge, and Elliott Wolf in particular. And so how do they handle this week? What kind of inroads are made with agents, whether they're agents of their own guys, agents of other players who are scheduled to hit free agency, who might end up being free agents because their teams don't have long-term plans for them. So anyway, big week for the New England Patriots. And it ain't just about the draft. It's about free agency as well. We are now less than a month away from the new league year beginning. So that's when the team is initially going to take shape. And we know Robert Kraft wants to build through the draft, but they've got all kinds of money to play with. And we just got a new figure for the NFL salary cap now moving forward. The Patriots are going to have what looks like could be about $100 million in cap space. $100 million in cap space. That to me tells me, number one, your idea of a $10 million player, your idea of a $15 million player, your idea of a $20 million player, that might change because the cap just jumped $30 million, in part because teams have fallen into more money that was saved during the COVID impacted season and now has been fully allocated, money that has come in because of new media deals. You got to have to start thinking about these players in different ways. And if you're somebody who looks at a quarterback and says, well, if the Patriots weren't willing to give Tom Brady $25 million a year back in 2019, why would anyone get $25 million a year? If you're talking about free agent quarterbacks, for instance. And I know people who listen to this podcast know that is the floor now for a veteran starting quarterback. But we're a long way from there these days in 2024 with the cap being where it is. And so Baker Mayfield, what is that guy worth? It's going to be whatever you think he's worth. Add about 7 or 8 million a year to that, potentially. That to me is one of the ways in which this new salary cap figure impacts us, impacts teams. We're working in a new market. This is just the new world of 2024. New cap number. My second reaction to the new cap number is this. Players who you thought might be cap casualties might not have to be cap casualties. Right? And I'll use a big name Patriot to give you an example here. Let's talk about David Andrews. Now, this guy is one of the team's few leaders, maybe its only leader under contract on the offensive side of the ball. I thought had an excellent season last season. He played every snap. He's 32 years old. If you're bringing in a young quarterback, you would love to have David Andrews there protecting you, snapping you the football, helping you make whatever calls need to be made. He has good football left in him, in my opinion. And so he shouldn't be going anywhere, regardless of what his salary or his contract, or his cap figure says. But his cap figure for next year is scheduled to be $8.4 million. Now, in the Bill Belichick era, a 32-year-old center with a cap number of $8.4 million, would that guy be a lock for the roster? Again, with Andrews, I would say should be, but you never know. Now, to me, bumping up the salary cap makes it so that anybody that you thought was on the line of being a cap casualty. So even if you had a single thought in your head as to whether or not David Andrews should come back with that cap figure if you're the Patriots, now to me, again, this is a hypothetical example, but that's the kind of thing where now you don't worry about it. It's $8 million in cap dollars for a salary cap that's going to be at $255 million. So don't do anything crazy when it comes to quote unquote cap casualties. And don't do anything crazy when it comes to being reluctant in your willingness to re-sign people you feel as though you should re-sign. To me now, this is my third reaction to the new cap figure. Do you have any excuse not to re-sign Mike Onwenu? If he's asking for the sun, moon, and stars, and you want to say to him, hey, Mike, we get it. You want to see the market? Go see what's out there for you on the market. come back to us later. I could see it playing out that way. But there's no reason not to maybe try to ensure that you don't let him get there, because you're in that dire a spot along your offensive line. You have that much money. To me, 1 + 1 should equal 2 in this scenario. As my buddy Mark Bertrand on 98.5 The Sports Hub says, sometimes it's okay to play checkers. Doesn't always have to be chess. And so now you have so much in terms of resources at your disposal. You should be able to play checkers here, pay some guys, overpay some guys in some instances, just so you're relatively set up, just so you have a representative NFL roster to play with in 2024. Okay, so we laid out why this is a big week for the Patriots. We laid out our reactions to the new salary cap figure, very next patsy types of topics in the podcast here. I do want to look ahead to the combine, though. And I do want to talk a little bit about the athletic testing, because I think it's fun. And I want to give people who maybe haven't fully jumped in and gotten themselves neck deep in the NFL draft waters for this spring. Those are the people I'm thinking about here. And I want to just give you a little introduction to some of the prospects, specifically the receiver prospects, because we talk about the quarterbacks all the time, especially the guys at the top of the draft. We've talked ad nauseum on Jaden Daniels, ad nauseum on Drake May, Caleb Williams. The receivers, I feel like, have been ignored a little bit, at least here on our podcast. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit you with an interview first, which I think you're really going to like. This is with Rome Odunze. He is, to me, maybe the second best receiver prospect in this class. Some would say third, some would say second, depending on who you ask. Malik Neighbors from LSU, Jaden Daniels' his teammate, and Rome Odunze from Washington are sort of right there, neck and neck, as being the second receiver taken in this year's draft. May depend on what sort of flavor you're looking for at that position. Two very different types of skill sets there. Two great players. Two guys that I think will both end up going in the top 7 picks, along with Marvin Harrison Jr. That's how strong this receiver class is at the very top. So we're going to hit you with that Rome Odunze interview, which we were able to do on Radio Row. I think you're really going to fall in love with his personality, quite frankly. And maybe you will suddenly start warming up to the idea of the Patriots trading back for a little extra scratch. You end up with somebody like Odunze. Now you have a number 1 receiver on the outside for the foreseeable future. Maybe you can use some of that draft capital that you traded down for and trade back into the first round and take a quarterback there. You can start to let your imagination run wild a bit. But we're going to play this interview for you, and then we're going to get into some combine winners, losers. How about some award winners? We're going to go event by event, and I'm going to project some winners, quote unquote. Best 40, best 3-cone, short shuttle, and we're going to specifically focus in on the receiver spot. And so that way, we're going to get to body types. We're going to get to skill sets. You're going to be hammered with about 10 to 12 receiver names that are, in my opinion, going to be all day 1, day 2 guys. And now, hopefully you, by the end of this podcast, will not only have a newfound affinity for Rome Odunze, but you'll also have a little bit more familiarity with some of these receivers that the Patriots could be interested in, even if they take a quarterback at number 3 overall. So before we get to our combine event winners, our projections there at least, let's get to our interview with Rome Odunze. Very excited to have with us now on the Next Pats podcast, Rome Odunze. Rome, thank you so much for spending some time with us here. Such a phenomenal year you had at Washington. You're a busy man, so we thank you.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to be here. I'm super grateful to be on with you. It's been an honor.
You are a Las Vegas guy. The Super Bowl is here. What does it mean for you to have this game in your hometown?
It's awesome. I mean, to see my hometown with all, it already has some pretty bright lights and different, entertainment and attractions. But to have, football, which I hold near and dear to my heart here, on the biggest stage, it's exciting. And to see all these people come out to be able to, have some fun with it, it's super cool to see.
Of course, you're here with us courtesy of Sharpie, and you are getting ready for the Combine, is my expectation right now. What goes into that? What do you feel like you need to do to make sure you end up being drafted where you would like to be drafted come the spring?
I think that a lot goes into it. Mostly just training, making sure I'm on top of my diet, my sleep, my recovery. It's just a time to really focus in and hone in on all those things, which I love. I'm a grinder. I love to be in that mode where I could just, get better every day and focus on, being the best version of myself. So it's super awesome. I think it's an exciting way to do it, especially because I'm out in Irvine, California, which has some good weather. So just be able to go out there and outperform hopefully some of the other athletes, be able to compete with some of them and put up some good numbers.
Give us a number. Speaking of numbers, give us a number, Rome. We have to have a number on the 40.
I can't.
Give it to us. What are you shooting for? Come on, I know there's one in that brain of yours.
I don't got one for you. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna let the time speak for itself. I think that there's a lot of talk and chit chatter out there, so I'm not the one to do that. I'll just let the time speak for itself.
You mentioned how competitive you are, and that will be another forum for you to show off your competitiveness. That to me showed up at times with your blocking.
Yeah.
How do you approach that part of the game? Because in New England, for a long time, sometimes you're playing in some bad weather.
Right.
You're not always able to throw it deep down the field.
Right.
You have to run the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us how you approach that aspect of your game.
Oh, I love it. I love being in the trenches. I watch a lot of Cooper Kupp film, and I see him blocking DNs in the league, and I'm like, man, I could do that. And it reminds me of the pure form of football, like special teams. Like you're just going out there, you're hitting somebody, you're making something happen. So, to be able to do that for my teammates, for my running back who makes a lot of blocks for me to be able to make the plays, it's fun. I like to, come off the emotion and come hit a DN or something like that. But it's fun for me, and be able to, impose your will on somebody else it's an exciting part of the game.
All right, Rome, now I know you have to be a big-time follower of NBC Sports Boston and our coverage. I'm sure you're reading everything we have online. We did post a mock draft recently where you ended up going to New England in the top 10.
Okay.
What would it mean to you to go play for the Patriots? It's a team that obviously has had so much success as you've grown up and watched this sport. They have a new head coach there now, Gerard Mayo. But what would it mean to you to come to New England?
It would be awesome, especially because, I'm a West Coast kid, so being able to go out, I've always wanted to go out to the East Coast and be able to, enjoy some of the different things that the East Coast has to offer. So it would be a completely new experience, and I think that would be fun. And to play for a team that have had such success in the past, and so many great players come through there, and Hall of Famers in that aspect. I would love to be able to play in that standard and play with a fan base that is passionate and that loves the game, and I think that those different aspects about it created such a desirable location.
Last question for me. If you could describe your game as a receiver, we asked you about the blocking, but the people at home want to know about your pass catching. If you could describe your game for us in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, one word. I'll say attack.
Why?
Attack. I would say attack just because in the blocking game, in the pass game, I'm looking to go impose my will on a defender. I'm looking to make sure my body's in position to catch a ball. When it's in the air, it's mine. So I'm always looking to take the advantage. And in offense, that's what it is. It's about attacking the defense, not waiting for them to come do something to you.
Rome in attack mode when he's on the field. I know there are Patriots fans hoping that their team attacks you in the draft. Thanks so much for being with us, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great stuff there from Rome Odunze. Really good to catch up with him on Radio Row. Did you fall in love with his personality? I don't know. Let us know. Let us know in the YouTube comments. Let us know on Apple Podcasts. Throw us a review there and let us know what you thought of Rome Odunze's back and forth with us there. You can review that as well. I don't think the Patriots are going to have the opportunity to draft him necessarily, because I do think they'll end up taking a quarterback at number 3 overall. But if they don't, and they want Odunze, and they're okay with Michael Penix's knees, is there a scenario in which you end up with 2 Washington Huskies in New England next year? I think there are a lot of Patriots fans that would be okay with that scenario after watching Michael Penix in the national semifinal this past year. Maybe they missed the final and they, are still dying to have Michael Penix here, but maybe they watched the semifinal and fell in love. I get it. In terms of deep ball accuracy, Michael Penix is an exciting player. The injuries are the only thing for me that would give me pause. Okay, so there's your interview with Odunze. Let's get to some combine winners, some projected winners, event by event at the receiver position. Let's start with the 40. Now, everyone might assume that I say Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy here. And don't get me wrong, he is a freak. I'm going to save him because I'm not sure he's going to win the 40-yard dash. Although, according to Bruce Feldman's freaks list from this past season, he clocked on the GPS 23.5 miles per hour. That's pretty damn fast. The guy might have a shot at winning the 40. But my choice for this one is going to be Malik Neighbors. The receiver out of LSU, he is so sudden, and it is so easy to see on tape. He moves, it feels like, some of these speedsters that we're used to watching. Maybe not quite Tyreek Hill, but maybe someone like Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill's teammate down in Miami. Only he's bigger and heavier, and he might be a little bit even more explosive, as crazy as that is to say. So Malik Neighbors is going to be my pick for the 40-yard dash, although there are a lot of great options here. Tez Walker, who you may have heard of because he is Drake May's teammate, was Drake May's teammate at UNC, straight line fast. Might not be able to run a ton of great routes for you, might be a little bit unrefined in that regard, but he can scoot. And so he has a real chance to win this one as well. There are a couple of other fast players here that might end up taking the gold when it comes to the 40-yard dash at the receiver position this year, but I'm going to save them for other events because they're all guys that have tremendous lower body explosiveness, and so that's going to translate to some other events, which we will get to. Let's get to the 3-cone. My choice for the 3-cone is going to be Xavier Worthy out of Texas. Now, part of the reason is because he is a very obviously quick, very obviously shifty, very obviously, to me, smooth and fluid athlete. And he's a guy who is gotten a lot of Zay Flowers comps. And so that type of player, that slot receiver, is usually the type that excels in the 3-cone. You're thinking about change of direction. You are thinking about fluidity and ease of movement because of the way that drill is set up. So I really like Xavier Worthy out of Texas. About 6 feet tall. He is so quick. He is so sudden. He's one of the best receivers in this year's draft class. He has really good straight line speed as well, but just a twitchy, quicker than fast is my guess. I guess we'll see how that plays out at the combine, but he's that kind of guy. He looks like he will be an impactful slot receiver very, very soon. So he's my choice to win this one. Others that I want to mention here, though, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia, another looks to be a excellent change of direction athlete. Had an excellent Senior Bowl, really sharp movements at the line of scrimmage, at the tops of his routes. I think he could end up with a great 3-cone time. And Roman Wilson, another Senior Bowl standout, another really easy mover, just so efficient. Efficiency is the word that comes to mind for Roman Wilson, the receiver out of Michigan, who, again, really tore it up at the Senior Bowl and going against some of the best players at the Senior Bowl. For instance, you saw him put together some great reps against the Toledo corner, Quinyon Mitchell, who maybe had the best week of practice of any player there, offense or defense. And Roman Wilson still stood out. That's a guy who, again, low to the ground. That's what you're thinking of when you think good 3-cone drill. It's also what you think of when you think of good short shuttle time. And I have a couple names for that as well. I'm going with Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall. Now, to me, this is my New England roots showing here. But I got some Julian Edelman vibes when I watched his Florida tape. And I've only seen a couple of games, but he plays really hard. He's about 6 feet tall, but he is thicker than a lot of the guys in this year's draft class, which Edelman was too. And I don't think he really got a lot of credit for that until maybe even later in his career when he became kind of an impactful blocker. I mean, the guy was strong, especially for his size, but he was always right around 6 feet, 5'11", 6 feet, right around 200 pounds. It looks like Pearsall will end up checking in with similar measurements. And so that's sort of where I start. But he also has this great change of direction ability, or so it seems. Is he going to be Edelman, who was elite in terms of the 3-cone, in terms of the short shuttle? I don't know. but he looks like that kind of mover. And so that's somebody that I would anticipate has a pretty good short shuttle. I'm also going to go with Malik Washington out of Virginia. Now, is he a first-round pick? No. Is he a second-round pick? Probably not. But Malik Washington is somebody who really impressed folks, NFL folks, at the Shrine Game. So he now, to me, is in that day 2 conversation. And, does his size limit him? And does his size keep him away from teams because he is about 5'8"? But he is another thicker player. I mean, he's going to be, it looks like 190-ish pounds at 5'8", but he's so good at making people miss. And he is another smooth mover. And he's the kind of guy that it just, from watching some of his tape and watching some of his movements out of the slot, is he somebody who can get really low to the ground? He's already there, right? But in that short shuttle kind of drill, does he stand out as one of the better and quicker movers among this slot receiver group? And there are a number of these guys. Are any of them coming to New England? Honestly, I kind of doubt it, because to me, Pop Douglas is your slot of the future. But when it comes to 3-cone and short shuttle, you got some quick movers there. Let's get to the vertical. This is where I want to mention some of the other players that I think could be in the mix for the 40. We didn't mention Malik Neighbors' teammate, Brian Thomas Jr. Longer, taller player. Somebody who is going to draw some comparisons to some of the better true X receivers that are in the game in some corners. I don't know if he is thick enough to truly fulfill that promise as, if you're looking for a DK Metcalf, right? You're thinking of a true X receiver. Is that what he's going to be at the next level? No, I don't think so, because I think he's thinner than that. That to me isn't necessarily his game, but he has a crazy catch radius. He has long arms, talked about his length already, but I think he's going to have the ability to get up and go get the football too. And so the vertical leap for me, for Brian Thomas, I think could be really good. And so that's going to be my choice there in the vertical. We'll see how that ends up playing out. The other name I wanted to mention here is Troy Franklin from Oregon, another guy with a ton of juice, another great athlete. And this maybe should have been my choice for the 40 winner. Maybe I should swap Franklin and Neighbors for vertical and 40. Who knows? I think Neighbors is going to end up being like top 3 in everything. But I wonder if Franklin's very obvious elite speed also makes him a threat to be the best 40 guy the best vertical guy in this year's class. So all kinds of juice from Troy Franklin. He's somebody who I think could be a end of the first round, top of the second round kind of pick. So if the Patriots go with a quarterback at 3, and then they're looking for a receiver at 34, and they want to get more explosive, and we heard that earlier this week from Patriots coaches that, explosiveness is something that they're going to be looking for. Troy Franklin had a 30-yard or more reception in 12 of 13 games. He is explosiveness personified. And so they could do way worse at the top of the second round as a deep class at receiver again. It's a guy who might be a first-round pick. They could do a lot worse at the top of the second round at 34 overall as a guy who in another year where maybe the receiver class isn't as deep might have ended up as a lock first-round pick. He still could go in the first when it's all said and done. Okay, now we're to the broad jump. This is where I'm going to use Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison Jr., who could very well, we're not going to do the bench press because who cares, right? I think he could win the bench press because according to Bruce Feldman, again, we're going to refer to that athletic freaks list. It is such a great resource for us each and every year. According to Bruce Feldman, friend of the podcast, by the way, he's already done, and this was before this past season, so who knows? Has he gotten stronger since then? 20 reps at 225 on the bench. At the receiver spot, that might be good enough to win it. He's broad jumping, damn near 11 feet. That, to me, could win it. He's clocked a sub 4-second short shuttle before. I could have picked him to win the short shuttle this year at 6'4", 200 plus pounds. That shouldn't happen. This guy is an elite mover. I think he's getting almost a little bit underrated in that regard. And maybe it's because he's probably not going to be the fastest in the 40. But he is such a tremendous athlete. And he has such a great catch radius himself. I think he might actually surprise some people. I think people give him credit for being as polished as he is, which is true, and he deserves that. But I'm wondering if people are going to almost re-fall in love with his athleticism based on some of the crazy numbers that he puts up. So he's going to be my pick for the broad jump winner. So if he could do that, that'd be really appreciated. Did somebody pass this along to him and say that we need him to win the broad jump, because I'd like to be correct with some of these projections. A last name I'm going to mention. Maybe he ends up taking the silver to Marvin Harrison Jr. in the broad jump. Another guy with lower body explosiveness. Another guy who will be drafted, I think, in the first couple of days of the draft, though long after Marvin Harrison Jr. Another guy with NFL bloodlines. Another guy with Hall of Fame caliber NFL bloodlines. It's Brendan Rice from USC. Is he going to look like Jerry Rice in an NFL uniform? I don't think so necessarily. I don't know if he's that kind of player. These two guys move differently. But he's an NFL caliber athlete. There is no doubt about that. Another freaks list person, and according to Bruce Feldman, was almost 40 inches in the vertical, again, before last season when he put this thing together, hit 23 miles an hour on the GPS at 215 pounds, 6'3". So he's got that size. He has that explosiveness. He's got some real juice there. And though there's no broad jump number for Rice on this year's freaks list, I think he's going to be 10 plus easy, 10 feet plus easy, and maybe he's even in the high 10s. So, lot of names for you there. Okay, so to backtrack, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Brendan Rice, two guys with tremendous NFL receivers as their dads. They're my picks in the broad jump. In the vertical, we've got Brian Thomas from LSU, and we've got Troy Franklin from Oregon. In the short shuttle, we've got Ricky Pearsall from Florida and Malik Washington from UVA. In the three cone, we've got three names, appropriately. Xavier Worthy from Texas, Ladd McConkey from Georgia, and Roman Wilson from Michigan. And in the 40, you have Malik Neighbors from LSU and Tez Walker from UNC. If you are somebody out there who is as sick in the head as I am when it comes to the draft and the combine in particular, and you have receivers that you think will be better in certain events compared to the guys that I have laid out for you, please, by all means, do so. If anyone has some freaky strong receiver out there, not named Marvin Harrison Jr., that you think is going to win in the bench press, I would love to know his name. Leave us a comment on YouTube. Leave us a comment and a review on Apple Podcasts. We love you. We're going to have a great time at the Combine next week. Keep an ear out. An eye if you're on YouTube, an ear if you're listening to the pod for our next Pats episode, because we're going to be able to talk to so many players, of course, but also it's a great week to get some of the best guests in the country, whether it's draft coverage, free agent projections, league people themselves. We are planning on talking to, for example, de facto Patriots GM Elliot Wolf on Tuesday. So we will turn that around quickly. We'll get you that audio, and hopefully we'll learn a lot more about him. I know a lot of fans out there have probably never even heard him speak before. Never mind what some of his philosophies are and what he's looking for in this year's draft class, in this year's class of free agents. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have so much content for you this coming week. Keep it here on Next Pats. We've got you covered.